In this video, we're going to be going over all of the various TradingView settings to get you up to speed. If you've never used TradingView before, this will be a good tutorial on all of the features, functions, and basically how to set up your chart from scratch. So if you've just signed up for TradingView for the very first time, you're likely going to see a screen very similar to this, where your bullish candles are green, your bearish candles are red, you have a black background with some grid lines, and everything looks a little uninspired. Chances are you wouldn't even have that bar either. So the first thing that I always like to do is I want to go into my settings. So there's a couple different ways that we can do this. We can either right click on the chart and click settings. We can double click on the candles. That'll bring up the chart settings. Or if we go to the top right hand corner, we can see this little gear icon. We can click that. Either way, it'll greet us with the chart settings section. First thing I'm going to want to do is go to the canvas section, and I'm going to want to change my backgrounds. Now the background options, given they are defaulted to this gradient option, where if we start to do this, we can get basically this weird mix of two different colors. I don't really understand why they added that, but to each their own, I suppose. I like to use solid, and I like to use a white background, which I'm going to change to now, so protect your eyes. Now that we have the white background, we can go to the symbol sections and start changing the colors of the candles that we have in front of us. What I like to do for my candles is on the bullish candles, I like to have a gray body. And for the bearish candles, I like to have a black body. My borders, I like to have black for both, but you can also do a similar grayish color for the body as well for the bullish candles. And then the wicks, I like to have a black wick. It's a pretty basic theme, but looks super clean and is very effective. Now we'll go through some of these items. You can see under price lines, we have this last price line, which is this line just across the screen. This is something I like to turn off as I find it very distracting. We have previous day close. This will just show the previous day's close price. We have the high and low, which will show the high and the low of whatever price range that is on your screen. So if I keep scrolling back, you'll notice the high and the low of these lines is changing. Not really useful, but something you can add. Finally, we have this bid and ask line, which will show the spread. This is going to be useful for people who use either the paper trading feature built into TradingView, or if you're lucky enough to have your brokerage through TradingView, you're able to actually execute through this. But for anyone else, it's not really the most useful thing, so we'll turn that off. If you want to change your time zone to match whatever time zone that you are in, you can click that time zone and pick your city. From there, we'll go down to status line, and this will be everything that's going to be on this top left-hand side. We can turn this logo on and off, which basically takes the US and Great Britain flag and turns it on and off. We have title, where we can take the title on and off, or we have the option change description, ticker, and ticker and description. Description will show British pound over the US dollar. Ticker will say GBP USD, and as you guessed it, ticker and description will show both. I personally like to just show ticker. That way it's a little bit smaller. The open market status is going to show, if I click that away, this little green dot. This is basically going to show that the market is open for trading currency. We know that the markets are open from 5 p.m. Eastern on Sunday evenings until 5 p.m. Eastern on Friday afternoons. So basically this will be green until basically Friday evenings, all of Saturday, and Sunday up till 5 p.m. We have these open, high, low, close values, which is going to show your open, your high, your low, and your close price. As I scroll over all of these candles, all the values of the open, high, low, and close will change. Very useful tool just to understand your price levels. Volume, we're not really going to talk about. This is dependent on the data feed that you're using here on TradingView, and it's not something that we actually use. Then we have this background section where we can add a little background for the actual status bar. Again, not something that's overly important, but just something to take note of. If we go to the scales, what we'll notice is the status bar name or symbol name will be unchecked. I like to check this. What this is going to do is add GBP USD to the status bar. So what all of these options are going to do is going to change all of the status bar on the right and the bottom. The last price, we could turn that on or off. Basically, that's just going to highlight whatever the current price is. We have value according to scale, or we have price and percentage value, which will also just show if it's up or down for the day or period. I like to have just value according to scale. We have the symbol previous day closing price, which will show the previous day closing price without the line. We have the bid and ask price, which will show the spread, again, without the line, the high and low price of whatever you're scrolling at, again, with out the lines. And then this no overlapping feature will basically mean that if you have alerts or objects that creates boxes here on the scale line, they will not overlap, so you'll be able to see all of them. Countdown to bar close will show this little countdown. Basically, this is saying there's 7 minutes and 40 seconds until this 15-minute candle closes. The plus button here, if I highlight, you'll see that there's a little plus button to the right of my cursor. If you click that, you're able to add an alert. Again, if you paper trade or have a broker through here, you can buy, sell, create new order, or they have this new feature where you can draw a horizontal line, which just allows you to reference a price quickly. I don't really touch any of these things, so I wouldn't really worry about really anything here. Feel free to play around with that, but those are kind of the main things to take a look at. The canvas is where we started. This is where we changed the background color. We have grid lines where we can basically change grid lines. I don't like to use grid lines, so I just turn them off. But if we just did vertical and horizontal grid lines and turn these on, what you'll see is very quickly your chart looks just really not nice. So again, just turn those off, but you do have the option to do vertical only, horizontal only, or none, which we'll keep it at. The crosshair will show obviously these lines vertically and horizontally. I personally like to keep it pretty light in color so that you can only just barely see it, so it's not as distracting. You can also change it if you want a solid line, if you want a dotted line, all those sort of things, just to make it, again, a little bit more visual. I like dashed lines, keep that. There is a watermark that you can add. This will add the pair, the time frame, and then the description. So British pound over the US dollar. It's not really the most useful thing, but it's something that you can add to your chart if you really want to. You can change the color of it and the opacity, so you can have it like super apparent or very faint. Again, not something I like to use, but something that's there for you. If we go to the scale section, this is again going to be this right bar and this bottom bar. We can change the text color. I like to use black so that it pops with this white theme. I also like to use 10 or the smallest font that I can, just that way I can get a little bit more data. If we do the lines, what you'll notice is at 0%, if I turn this to black and then turn up the opacity, you'll notice that these lines now change colors. But again, like these, you can pick any color that you want, any color that fits your theme. I'm pretty basic when it comes to this stuff, so I tend to stick towards black. The navigation buttons, we have this one right here. This is visible on mouse over, always visible, and always invisible. What this is referencing is if you scroll to the bottom center of your screen, you'll have a minimize, a maximize, a left, a right, and a refresh scale. If I change this to always visible, those buttons will always be visible. If always invisible, won't be able to use them. I usually just keep it on visible on mouse over, although if I'm entirely honest, I don't really use them. We'll move down to the margin section. This is where you can tweak the margins of the top, the bottom, and the right. So if I change the top to say 20, we'll see I have a lot more space above. If I do the bottom to 20, you'll see that I have a lot of space to the bottom and as well as the right. So if I do say 500, what we'll have is no matter what, I have 500 candles worth of space. So if I do something like this where I scrunch my chart up and then I click back to that navigation pane and I hit reset chart, we'll notice that we have 20 here, and 500 here. So something that you can tweak and adjust to whatever you see fit. I usually just keep it on the defaults, but you'll find something that's comfortable for you and use it accordingly. If we go to the trading section, this is only, again, if you use that paper trading or are able to trade through your brokerage. You can take off these buy and sell buttons if you're not going to use it. Just cleans it up a little bit. And you can play around with these settings if you do use it. I personally don't. I can't trade through TradingView, so I don't bother. And then finally, we have this events section where we can have economic events, which you'll see on the bottom. You'll have notifications here on this little lightning bolts, which will just be interesting things to take note of. We'll have the little Great British Pound flag here, which will show when another news event is going to take place, or the US flag here, which will show when a US event will take place. We can turn that off. That will turn off those flags. Latest news and mines. This is a TradingView curated feature. We can turn that off as well. And alert lines on chart. Just keep that on. If you want to know about the market events, which is handy to know, you can keep that on, and those will keep those little flag icons there, and that will show you when to take note of a news event coming. So now that we have our chart configured, we're going to want to save this, so we can always just very quickly load up all of our settings. We have this template feature right here. So if I click on that, I can click save as. We're going to call this test, just because I'm doing this as a test. And what I'll do now, just to showcase, I can hit apply default. This will be the default that we started with. And then if I go back to test and click that, it will apply all of the settings that I want for my chart, so that I can pick up right where I left back off. And if I want to make a change, so say I want to change my chart colors to pink and black, instead of saving it and typing everything in, which I can do, oops, if I do that, test, I can click this and that'll automatically save over my other theme. Or maybe I don't even want to type it. I don't have to. I can click this little arrow right here, click test, click save. And what you'll notice now is that is now on tests of these pink and black candles. We'll just change it to that to keep it to the normal theme. And now we'll just kind of go through some of these features from left to right. So if we click on this symbol search, this is where we can search for any symbol. And what you'll notice is it comes up with various data feeds. Best thing I can recommend is to find a data feed that closely matches the broker you trade with. They will be all slightly different. If you'd like to use the one that Phantom uses, or most of the team, we use the forex.com feed. You'll see all of these various ones. If you weren't following along, what I did was I clicked on Forex. They have this all sources. You click that, find the source that you want. So forex.com in this instance, and this will show you every single pair that Forex.com offers. And if you click this little flag icon, this will just flag your pair, so you can refer to it later. If you click on any of these, it will add that chart to the screen, so you can look at it and do some analysis. Now what we'll do is we will look at the time frame settings. These will be very quick access to all of the various time frames that you'll be using for your analysis. If you want to favorite something, you can click the little star icon and it will add it. The ones that we tend to use a lot when we're doing our analysis with the Phantom trading strategy: the monthly, the weekly, the daily, the 4-hour, the 15-minute, the 5-minute, and the 1-minute. So make sure that you star those ones. You can add any different various timeframes if you feel the need, but generally speaking, we usually stick to these timeframes. If we look to this next section, these are the various different technical analysis chart settings. We have it on Japanese candlesticks. There's a line tool, Heikin-Ashi. If you look through the list, there's all kinds of them. We primarily use Japanese candlesticks, so that's where we'll stay, but something to take note of. The next section is the indicators section. We can click on the indicators, and I will tell you the main ones that we will likely be using inside of Phantom Trading. We have this one called Inside Bar V2. So if we click on that, that will add the indicator, and we'll notice it appears in our top left-hand corner. The other one that we'll use is the Phantom My Session Range, and that's pretty much it. You can feel free to search any sort of indicator that you want in here, and you'll get all kinds. The market of indicators through the TradingView is very large. And again, you can click the little star icon to favorite any indicator that you'd like within the indicator side. So now that we have our indicators here, what we can do, and we'll notice the chart has changed now. Well, we have 3 candle colors now. We have gray, black, and this new orange color. The orange color is an inside bar. I won't get into the details of the inside bar, but what we can do is we can change the color to whatever color we want. You know, I'll keep it as the orange, but we can change whatever time frame that we want under these visibility settings. And what you'll notice in TradingView, whether we're dealing with indicators or objects, everything will have various options that you can configure and visibility settings. Very important to take note of. But what we'll also have is this My Session Range indicator, which I will go into detail in another video on how to use it, how to configure it, all that sort of thing. One thing that we can also take a look at is if I double click back on the candles or go into the settings, go to the status line, what we'll notice is we have this indicator section and we have titles, arguments, values. So if I turn off titles, it's going to get rid of all of the names of the indicators. The arguments will just add some of the actual arguments for the indicator, and some indicators can be super long. So I personally like to turn that off just to keep it very minimal. And then I also like to turn off the values as well. That way I only get a list of the indicators that I'm using and nothing more. Nothing else is really overly important to me. But if you need that sort of information, that's where those settings are. If we look when we hover over the indicators, we have this little eyeball icon. This will hide or show the icon, or the indicator rather. And what we'll see is, as I'm clicking at some of the candles that are orange are turning back to black or whatever color they were. And when I turn it back on, they turn back to orange. We can hit the little gear icon and that will add that back into the settings, and we can configure everything, and that'll work the same for here. With some of them, you'll get this little bracket. This is where you can go into the source code and actually look at how these indicators are built. Not really anything unless you're going to mess around with Pine script, but that's just that. And now another thing that you can do is, similarly to our chart theme, we can add templates for our indicators. So let's do that. So we'll see this 4-dot icon. If I click that and click Save Indicator Template, we can choose a name for it. So I'll call it Test. We can tell it to remember the symbols. That would be Great British Pound to the US dollar, or the interval, which will be the 15-minute chart. This can be handy if you're setting up an indicator template for that is pair specific. You only want these indicators to pop up for that pair, or you only want these indicators to pop up for a specific time frame. You can kind of mix and match. Or what I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave it blank so that no matter when I apply this template to my chart, my indicators will load up as I expect them to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Save. Now that it's saved, I can click that 4 dots again, and I'll see that I have this test. If I want to favorite that, I can favorite it, and now I'll see that it's popped up on this bar here. And just to prove that this works, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply defaults. We're going to go back to a basic chart layout once more. I'm going to go to settings. We're going to apply our test. That brings back the pink candles. Great. And then what we'll do is we'll click our icon here, or we can go into the 4 dots and click test, and I'm going to click that. And what we'll notice is we have our my session range indicator and our inside bar templates back very quickly, which is a great and handy feature to bring all of our indicators back on with the click of a button. Now we'll get into the alert section. So if we click alert, what this is going to do is it's going to allow us the ability to set up any alerts. Alerts are going to be super handy when we're not at our charts and we want to be indicated of price reaching a certain thing. We can set up the alert all specifically in this window. We can change the pair that we want it to. In this case, I only have one pair open, so it's only going to let me pick pound US dollar. Now I can choose if I want it to be crossing up, crossing down, it's greater than, less than, blah, 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 blah. So many different ways that you can set up alerts. Generally speaking, you're probably just going to be using crossing. So when price crosses a specific level, it will create that alert. We can change the alert price by typing it in. So if I just put 121.7, for instance, it'll move down to here. And now that we've set our alert, maybe we want it to be a little bit lower. We want it to be 121.634. 634. So now we have it set on this bearish candle. We can set the trigger that it'll only go off once when it gets hit, or every single time. Now what you'll notice is the alert will trigger every time the condition is met, but not more than 1 time per minute. So there are some limitations to that. So just keep that in mind. If I want to put an expiry on that and say, you know what, I only want this to be valid for today, we can click that so that it will expire today at 11:51, which is very uninspired. That'll be for the next minute. But you can fine tune it. Obviously, if we look at the top here, if I only wanted it to be end of today at, let's say, 5 p.m. So that'll be the end of New York session. Click that. Now we can see that's going to expire. And giving our alerts names is super handy. So if I go pound US dollar demand level, we'll do 15 minutes, so I know which time frame it's hitting. And then I can put Great British Pound US dollar is entering the 15-minute demand level. Look for order flow shift on the 5-minute. The beauty of using a message and an alert name is going to allow it so that when you get that notification, you know exactly what's happening and what you need to do. That way you can take a lot of the thinking out of it and get straight to what you need. This can be really helpful when you are managing multiple pairs, or maybe it's hitting an alert that has been set up for a little while. And what we can also do is go into the notifications tab. You can have it so it'll notify in the app. I am using the TradingView desktop app, but this will be the same for the web browser version as well. You can show a pop-up. It'll have a little pop-up that shows up in in your TradingView, which should be in the center actually. Send an email. It'll send an email to whatever email address you have on your profile. If you have a website, you can set up a webhook URL and it'll give you an alert trigger there. You can play that sound and pick whatever sound that you wish to play and for how long you want it to play for. It can be super annoying, but you'll make sure that you don't miss any of your alerts. And then finally, you have send email to SMS, which sends a plain text to SMS as an alternative to your email. Once you're happy with all of those settings, you can hit create. And what you'll see is our alert set. We have this line now. And if I hover over it, it'll say Great British Pound US dollar, demand level 15-minute, which is what we named it, which is great. Maybe I don't want this line on here though. It's a little distracting. What I can do is if I right click on it, we can see alert lines, or we have change alerts color. Maybe I don't like the color of the alert. I can change whatever color I want it to be. So it's maybe a little bit more visually appealing, or maybe it's more attuned to my theme. We'll do maybe a dark blue, which is great. Perfect. And then what I can do is I don't want this line anyway. I'm going to get rid of the alert. Now what you'll see is I have this little triangle here. If I hover over it, there's my alert. If I click on it once, it'll stay there. I can move my mouse over here. That's great. As soon as I click away though, it will disappear. So if I click on it one more time, I can right click, I can stop it, edit it, remove it. Or if I just double click on it, it'll bring up this window. And this is where I can change my alert, delete it, change the notifications, all that sort of thing. One thing we'll do is we'll skip kind of these next things and we'll go to this little alarm clock icon here. This is the alerts management window. And what you'll see is this will be a list of all of your active alerts. Right now I only have one. I haven't set up any alerts. And you can set up more alerts by clicking the little plus sign. Again, I have pound US dollar open, so that's what it's going to allow me to do. I can set up multiple alerts and you'll see that I just have various alerts set up. This next one is right here. So I have the alarm or the line missing. Just turn it back on, turn it off. Maybe I don't like that one because it's kind of useless. We'll delete that. And now I only have this one alert. Alerts are super handy. I recommend using them and getting well acquainted with this. We can even search very specifically for certain things, which is why names and descriptions can be super handy depending on what you're looking for. So you can find whichever alert it is that you're looking for. So you can edit, change, amend, all those things very quickly. So now that we have alerts all set up, let's look at the replay function. We have this bar replay function. If I click it, we're going to get this little blue line. And what you'll notice is everything to the right of it is slightly less clear. You know, it's starting to fade away. This is where I'm going to select where I want my bar replay to start. Maybe I want something like this because I am going to test this little bit. I'm noticing that we're coming into a little level of supply. And what we can see is I can hit this jump to, and this is going to allow me to bring it back further if I wish. Click that, we'll go back 2 candles, great. We have a play button, which will allow the market to play. Again, I can jump back if I want. Do that. We can click next candle. We can change the speed of the way the candles appear. 10 times, 3 times, 1 times, 0.5 times, 0.3 times, and 0.1 times. If I click this, this will jump to real-time chart. And then what you'll notice, this is a fairly new feature for TradingView. We have sell and buy buttons as well as additional sizes where you can add in paper trading type money from the way TradingView has implemented this. And what this will allow you to do is if I hit sell and then I hit play, what you'll notice is it's going to run through this trade as if I had taken it on 280 US dollars up. You know, we can keep running it, whatever. We can flatten, that'll close the trades. And what you'll see is we've been able to take some trades. Can be handy for back testing and testing your strategy, that sort of thing, or replaying a day. Handy little feature. And when you close it, it'll tell you your P&L, how much you made, what your win rate was, all that sort of stuff. Obviously, I just took a random trade. We knew it was going to drop. So, hey, 220 bucks in the bank. Great. But that's the bar replay tool. I definitely think that you'll probably be spending a good amount of time in it as you're practicing this strategy, going through all of the different things, but that's the basis of it. And then the final things to take note of is we have an undo button, Control Z, or a redo button, which I can't do unless I click that, which is Control Y. And this will just allow you to undo and redo certain actions that you've done on the chart. Now what we'll do is we'll go into the multi-chart or layout settings. And the beauty of TradingView is we're able to use multiple charts. We can have a dual chart layout, whether we want it to be horizontal or vertical. Maybe we want 3 charts. We can have up to 16 charts if we really feel the need, which I can't do because I don't have the biggest plan, which is fine. I can do a maximum of 8, which is way more than I need anyway. We'll just stick on 3 maybe. That probably makes the most sense. And what this allows us to do is we can have, say, the 15-minute, the 5-minute, and the 1-minute open all at the same time, so we can do our analysis. If we click back up on the layout button, we can have it so that if the symbol button is checked, all 3 of these charts will always be pound US dollar, or if I change to say euro US dollar or so on and so forth, it will change to whatever the one chart is. So if I just click up, it's going to switch to Apple. If I go back, or if I just want to go GBP USD, I'm just typing this, click that, you'll notice all 3 charts change back to pound US dollar. Really handy if you want to just be focusing on that pair on multiple time frames. If I go to interval, this is going to be all the same time frame. So if I click this, all these charts are going to change to the 15-minute. This can be really handy if you're looking at multiple pairs and you all want them to be on, say, the 15-minute chart, for example. Let's just hit 5-minute here and 1-minute there again. Go back here, we have the crosshair. What you'll notice is if I start scrolling over bits of price action here on the 15-minute chart, you'll see it's jumping on the 5-minute and 1-minute chart on the right. That's because it's syncing with this 15-minute crosshair. Now it's syncing with the 5-minute and so on and so forth. Really handy to just know where you are in price action. The time, to be honest, I don't really know what either of these do. I don't play around with them, so play around with them, figure that out for yourself. Really, the main ones that I like to use are the crosshair and the symbol, because I typically will use one symbol as I'm looking at 3 different time frames, but feel free to mix and match how you see fit. One thing that I will also add before we move on is, so I'm just going to draw a rectangle, for example. So I'm just going to click here. We're going to draw this on here. And what you can see is I've drawn it on the 15-minute chart, but it doesn't appear on the 5-minute chart or the 1-minute chart. If I right click on the rectangle, you'll notice I have no sync, sync in layout, and sync globally. If I click either sync in layout or sync globally, what you'll notice is it will appear on the chart, which is really handy for being able to see things on different time frames and just get a good idea of what's happening on the higher time frame or the lower time frame, and have all your symbols matching so that you know what's going on. So again, if I put on this arrow, go to sync globally, you'll notice it appears on all of the time frames. Really handy to be able to see all of the tools on all of the layouts that you're using. So if you notice that all of your objects aren't appearing on other charts, again, just right click on the object itself, make sure sync globally or sync in layout is there. Now let's move on to the layout section. This is where basically this chart layout is going to be saved. This is where we can rename it. Instead of being unnamed, I'm just going to call it, you guessed it, test. And then from there, you can see that now I have this test layout. We can autosave, which just means that it's going to periodically save as I make changes. We can make it so that you can share your entire layout, so you can share all of your analysis if you want to. Again, rename. You can make a copy of it. You can export all of the chart data. You can make a new chart layout. If I go to load layout, what you'll see is all kinds of layouts that I have all set up here. Again, you can favorite whichever ones, you can delete, you can search, whatever you wish, and you can get all sorts of different layouts. So you can keep things really organized. Maybe you want a layout for end of day markups. You want a layout for your live analysis. You want a layout for back testing, so on and so forth. This is a great way to manage that. What you'll notice is I have various different tabs, all of which are different layouts that I have that I can very quickly jump back and forth to. Now what we'll do is we'll look at, we have a full screen mode, which you can click to go full screen, which is fine. And then finally we have this take snapshot button. If we click download image, it'll download the image to your computer. You can copy the image, which will allow you to paste it as a JPEG or a PNG file. Copy link, which is probably what you'll be using the most to share inside of the Phantom Discord. This will post a link to the chart layout. So if I just open up a text box, it'll come in this sort of format, and when you click on that, it will show everything that's on this screen as a snapshot. And then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of the object settings here on the left hand side of the chart, and similarly to the time frames, indicators, that sort of thing, all of these chart items or these object items, you can put a little star beside, and that will add a favorites bar. If you don't have a favorites bar showing up, even though you've favorited things, chances are you've minimized it. So if you click this little star in the bottom left hand corner, and once it turns blue, you'll see a favorites bar pop up. You can add whatever you want and move this however you want if you just click and drag. But what you'll see is kind of the main things that we like to use in Phantom: the rectangle tool to draw our zones, the pen tool to draw forecasts into those zones, line tools to mark up breaks of structure, for example, long tools to show or to visualize buying trades, short tools to visualize selling trades. Scan boxes we used to use, maybe don't need to use them quite as much anymore. And the reason why, TradingView actually just recently added a new feature for rectangles where they added this middle line feature. And basically we were using the GAN box so we could get this middle line. So TradingView put in a solid to just give us that ability. We use arrows to reference liquidity. We have callouts, circles, ellipses, text boxes, highlighters, all that sort of stuff. And you'll find plenty more things that maybe you like to use. Have a pick through all of these different things, figure out what makes sense, what doesn't make sense for you, add them, move your bar around so that it's super comfortable for you. And what you'll notice now is I have a bunch of objects here, and maybe I want to delete them all because I want to start with a clean chart. If I click on this little trash can icon, this will be remove objects. If I click on the little arrow to the right of it, I can remove the drawings, the indicators, or the drawings and the indicators. So if I click that, I now have a clean chart and there's no indicators just on the one chart. If I want to do that here, I'd have to just click to remove the indicators. Maybe I didn't want to do that. If I click either this back button or Control Z, they'll all appear once more. I'm just going to go back to a single chart layout, move that right there. And maybe I want to delete all of these. If I hold Control and draw a box, I've selected all of these things and I can just hit delete. That'll delete. If I don't want to do that, Control Z. If I want to select all these, what you'll notice is we get this new bar, and you'll get that bar regardless when you select any item. And this will be, if you click the little gear icon, you can change the color of your objects, the visibility, which is super important. You'll be able to change what time frames that these objects appear. So if I go up to, say, the daily chart, what you'll notice is only these highlighter marks appear. If I go to the 4-hour chart, now the zone, the P&L tool, the highlighters, and the lines all appear. Maybe I don't want any of this stuff to appear on any time frame but the 15-minute and below, so we can just click all of these off. And what you'll notice is all of these, if I go up to the 4-hour, the daily, nothing will appear. But if I go down to, say, the 5-minute, they're still there, which allows us to really make our analysis super organized, super clean. So definitely looking at these visibility settings will be very key so that you can keep your analysis super clean and organized. Another thing you can do, if I select all of these items and we go to the right, TradingView has just moved the location of this. We have the object tree and data window, which used to be down in the bottom right-hand corner, but they've put it up here now. If I click that, what you'll notice is all of these are blue and I have all of these objects selected. So this is our object manager. I can either do this, or if I click and hold shift, I can select all of them. Or if maybe I just want to select, this one, this one, and this one, I hold Control and click these things. Now, if I select all of my objects, I'm gonna want to sync them all globally because I just realized there was an issue. If I don't have this, what you'll notice is if I want to create a group of objects, it's grayed out. And if I look at these icons, I'll notice that the arrow has a little globe sign and the rectangle has a little paperclip or link. And this goes back to what we did. We had sync and layout, and we have this one as, this one right here. This one is sync globally. So what I would have to do if I want to be able to link all these, because again, I can't do that, I can either select everything but those ones, and then I can click group drawings. Or if I want all of them, I can either sync globally or just turn off no sync since I'm only using one chart. Again, this will be depending on how you use things, but now that none of these have those symbols, you should be able to select create a group of drawings. And what you'll notice is it puts it in a little folder. If I want to name it, I can either just click on the folder, or what I can do is I can right click on the folder, hit rename, and then we'll just call this 15-minute analysis, which is great because now all of these objects are grouped. So if I click the little folder, I can move them all at the same time if I wish. If I want to lock them, I can click the little lock icon, and now I cannot move any of those items. If I want them not to be visible, I can click show or hide. or I can delete them all at the same time, which is really handy. This object manager, maybe I don't want all of these on the same object, so maybe we'll do that, and we can spread out some of them. So only these guys are here, but I really wanted the text and the highlighters together, and so on and so forth. Another thing that you can also do, which we did already, but if we click on the little folder and then right click on the text, for example, because what you'll see is when I click on this, it will show which ones with the little dots, or if I click on this one, you'll see it too, the little dots, the highlights saying these tools are selected. If I right click on the folder itself and go to settings, or if I right click on one of the objects selected and go to settings, we can change some of the settings. Because I have various items selected, some of the ways things work don't really work, but what I can do is I can change the visibility settings very quickly. And then the final thing on visibility settings, if I right click on, say, this long tool and I go to a visibility on intervals, I can make it appear on all intervals, the current interval, and again, interval means time frame, current interval and all the ones below, or current interval and all the ones above. So the handy thing about this is if I just do current interval only, and then I drop down to the 5-minute chart, that long tool no longer appears. If I go back to the 15-minute, it's only on the 15-minute, but maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want it to be on this time frame and below. I click that, I'll go down to the 5-minute, you'll notice it's there. Super handy function that has been added to TradingView that will allow you to just really quickly change your visibility settings on the fly instead of going into settings and then custom tuning things as you see fit. The final thing that you might find in handy as well is visual order. You can send certain objects to the front, the back, forward, backwards. And what you'll notice is if I send this to the back, it'll send it to the bottom. So as we can see in the object manager, if I just want them to be in different positions, I can click and drag. And basically what that'll allow me to do is, even though I'm hovering over this text tool, since this rectangle is above it, it's technically in front of this. That was what's going to pop up first, which can be super handy, especially when you're doing diagrams or doing a lot of analysis where you have a lot of tools on top of one another. Just helps you keep things super organized. And then the final thing that I'll talk about, similarly to timeframes, indicators, objects, all that sort of thing. If I want to change how the settings are on any object, so if we use this, for example, I want to change the color, I want to change the middle line, whatever, change the border, all that sort of stuff. Maybe I want some text on it. You know, you can add some text if I do that, or we'll go demand. We can have it so it's the inside of the right. We can have the top right, the bottom right. We'll do the inside left, inside center, changing all the positions of the text. We can bold it. We can italicize it. We can change the size of it, the color, all that sort of thing. Coordinates, where we can fine tune where this rectangle is printed. If we just want something very specific based on price, and then change all the visibility settings. When I'm happy with all of those things, again, I can click template, click save. We'll call that test. And then now it doesn't matter what I do. If I go in here, maybe I want to change it pink because I seem to be changing everything pink. Right click. If I go to template, which you can do on this, go to test, it'll change it right back to that blue color, and we're back to the races on that sort of thing. But this is kind of the quick overview of TradingView. I think the only other thing to really talk about is this watch list details and news section. This is where you can set up watch lists and put all of the various pairs that you look at. You know, I have pound US dollar, euro US dollar, Aussie dollar. If I want to add things to it, you can just click add symbol. You can search it in here. You can notice that I have forex.com already selected, which is great. You can add little flags to them for the watch list, various colors, just to keep things super organized depending on how many pairs you watch and whatever you want to put relevance to the flags. I have these little sections that I can expand and collapse. If I just right click on a pair, for example, and hit add section, we can add a new section. We'll notice it's called section 1. And just to fit the theme, we'll do test. Maybe I don't want all these in this. I can click and drag and move them around as I see fit. Super handy to manage your watch list and keep things super organized. But this has been an overview of TradingView. This will be, like I said, a instrumental application that you'll be using every single day throughout your trading journey.